Today on Seahawks Forever, powered by BetUS, former Seahawks player and coach and current broadcaster Paul Moyer joins me. The old number 21 before Devin Witherspoon wore it. And as a former safety, we're going to focus mostly on that young secondary. He's going to tell us all the things that he likes about those players and what makes up that unit that's been playing so well for the last 4 weeks. He's going to answer this question: could this group be as good as the Legion of Boom at some point? We'll also talk about Mike Holmgren's candidacy. He was named a finalist for the Hall of Fame today. Does he think he's deserving? And how about Pete Carroll also? What about superstition? A lot of bad things have happened in Glendale to the Seahawks on that field. How much of that weighs on the minds of some of these young players? And finally, I'll put him on the spot, ask him point blank if he thinks this Seahawks team is going to win the NFC West. Paul Moyer joins me next on this edition of Seahawks Forever. Let's go.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Head on over to BetUS, see all the latest money lines on the game coming up this week, as well as all the prop bets available. They have live betting on all NFL games. And right now you can get a 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit, 125% on your second and third deposits using the promo code YouTube150. Also sponsoring the show today, the folks from Doer, built for doing premium lifestyle apparel for all occasion. And I am a huge fan of their premium stretch denim jeans. These things have 20% stretch in them. They're made from antibacterial and sustainable materials. And you know from the moment you open the package, they are built to last. Built for doing, D-U-E-R. And right now you can get 20% off your first order at shopdoer/forever. That's www.shopdoer.com/forever. All right, so cannot understate the importance of this game coming up for the Seahawks in Glendale on Sunday. According to one analytics site, a Seahawks win would give the Seahawks a 62% chance to make the playoffs and drop the Cardinals to 17%. A Cardinals win, and they go to 71% chance of making the playoffs and drops the Seahawks down to 11%. Massive, massive game. One of the things I asked Paul about today is the challenge of turning around and playing the same team twice in 2 weeks, especially when you win the first time. Is it a disadvantage for the team that wins the first one? There was an instance, a couple of times it happened in Paul's career, including his rookie year. So we get into that with him as well. Before we do, hit that thumbs up button. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, share it. Hit that bell for notification of future episodes. You can also support the show in a number of other ways. All of those links will be down in the description. All right, let's get into it. This is my conversation with former Seahawk player and coach Paul Moyer. Paul, it's always good to have you on the show, especially now because we get to talk about some defense, right? 5-6 weeks ago, this was a sore spot. But since then, this unit has really been on fire, giving up just 12.5 points a game to opposing offenses over the last 4. After that number was nearly 30 during that stretch where they lost 5 out of 6. What are you seeing overall from this unit?
Yeah, and I'd even say it's better than that on the points. You know, I mean, we've given up a couple of touchdowns in the return game. We have not given up defensively in regulation over 14 points in the last 4 games. So that's pretty good. Look, I think there's a couple of things, particularly when they came out of the bye week. They just said, this isn't working. And it wasn't that Dotson's a bad football player. It wasn't Jerome Baker's a bad football player. It just didn't work in this system. They had to get guys who could use their hands, get off blocks, had really good instincts, not just in the cover game. And we got fortunate with the trade in Ernest Jones. He is an absolute stud linebacker. I'd say he's the best linebacker we've had in 8 years. And I know that's going to get a little blasphemy with Bobby Wagner.
No, I know what you're saying.
But I'm talking about a guy who's a force, not just a gatherer of tackles, but a guy who can play the pass game, the run game, everything. So I think it's just all come together. One is we talk about team defense a lot. And, some people poo-poo that. And I go, no, it's really important. And it's a fine line between I'm in my gap and I got out of it too early. and I trust my teammates. So I think the biggest thing is roles. I think everybody's role is established now. I think we know what Draymond Jones' role is. We know how we're using Leonard Williams, which is all over the place. I think Murphy got his role. He's had a few snaps diminished because of that, but it's a really healthy group in the front. And again, the two linebackers. I was wrong on Knight. I did not see it transitioning. Came out of college, and I thought he was a bad football player. I was just like, he wasn't a dynamic football player. And I was like, okay, the competition, I was trying to see how that was going to play out. Man, I was wrong. I mean, he is actually a really good football player, really good instincts in the running game, when to attack the gaps, when to shoot between offensive linemen. At the same time, I think one of those things, he has instincts. And I could talk about it all day. When to go over the top, when to come underneath the block. And he's a really good tackler. And I think the other thing is he's got really good instincts in the pass game too. How to hold off a play if I've got a guy in the flat and also someone behind me. How do I hold that off without getting outflanked there? So I think it's a lot of things. And because of that, the tackling is becoming infectious as well.
Yeah.
We have some really strong leaders on this team. One of them is Julian Love. I think he is a phenomenal leader. And he sets the example. You got to play like me every single time. And Witherspoon has it, but Julian Love has the professionalism of it as well. In other words, you got to always be in the right spot. You take care of your business first. And I just think this is what we're seeing. And it's gotten better every week. I mean, it's not like, oh, we've had a high and a low. No, it's just 4 games in a row. We've shut the running game down. We're getting stops. We're getting some turnovers, timely ones that, are big, like last week. And again, I just think last week might have been our finest performance. If you take their second series, Dan, where they went 70 yards on us, we shut them completely down. They only had one more series over 30 yards. And to me, that's success. If you can hold them under 30 yards, that's a successful drive. And so, yeah, it was really good stuff. And, every week I say, let's just stack one more on that.
Yeah, and it saved the game. It really preserved it. Because everything else was going wrong, right? We saw the special teams blunders in the first half. The offense had some issues early on and really couldn't get a rhythm going throughout the game. They made plays when they had to, but there's something about the confidence that comes along with knowing that you can get stops against good offenses anytime. This feels sustainable, doesn't it? And it better be, because when you look ahead on the schedule, there's some tough opponents coming.
Yeah, I thought when we played the Rams, I use the word a lot in the phrase, it looked different. And I go, okay, it felt like the Denver game where I go, wow, that was really impressive. But the Denver game, the first game of the year, had to do with more, man, we were just flying to the football. I mean, we just had team speed, and it was really fun to watch. There were some fundamental things that you go, okay, but you know what? We're so fast and we get to the ball, it overcomes that. Now we're getting to the ball fast. We're tackling well. Everybody's in the right position. We're covering exceptionally well and on the back end. And, part of that, again, taking care of the front. Yeah, 4 weeks in a row against good offenses, good quarterbacks. Yeah, it feels good. I don't worry about 3rd and 7 anymore like I used to.
Do you remember a time in your playing career or your coaching career where you saw your unit, or you were part of a unit that just clicked like that, where it just took some time for everyone to get on the same page, but once you did, it was different?
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to two times. 1983, my first year, my rookie year. We had a lot of talent. Had a new coaching staff, similar to what you have here today. Chuck Knox came in, and we had Tom Catlin as our defensive coordinator. It took us it probably took us close to the playoffs, but there was a couple games where just as a team, we said, okay, we kind of know how to win. It was 84 though, is when it really clicked, where we had a second year with our defense, and we set all kinds of records, the most turnovers that really in NFL history with, take the current history. I don't think it'll ever be broken. and it just everybody knew their role. I mean, we played a lot of complex 3-on-2 coverages on the back end. It was really hard for quarterbacks and offensive coordinators to figure out what we were doing. And man, once we had it down and we trusted each other, this thing just took off. And I think it's the same with this group. It's not as complex. He McDonald adds some little wrinkles here and there where he does some calculated blitzes that maybe it's not sound, but they're willing to say, hey, we're willing to take that chance. But it's not tricky. It's just, hey, guys freeing up, go and play football. I think we have a lot of good football players, good tacklers. Yeah, that one. And in 1986, we just got hot. It was just, again, it was a weird feeling that our pass rush just took off. The secondary knew how fast the pass rush was getting to the quarterback, so we could take some chances. And I think you're seeing a little bit of that here too. I think the secondary trust the defensive line. They're not going to hold the ball all day. We not always have a million sacks, but we do a pretty good job of collapsing the pocket, particularly when you go to that Arizona game. I mean, what we did to Kyler Murray was pretty impressive.
You can tell by what you're wearing. Your old stomping grounds. It's where the Seahawks are going this week.
Yeah.
Those Sun Devils are looking good, certainly better than my Cougs anyway. Playing the Cardinals twice in 15 days, basically. I wanted to look back on your career to see if that happened very often with you, and I only had to look to your rookie season. You played the Denver Broncos twice in a 3-week period, once at home, very similar to this scenario, once at home, and then you played them 2 weeks later on the road. You won the home game, then you go down to Mile High Stadium and you lose that game. How difficult is it for the winning team to kind of turn around and show something different on the road, a team that's more motivated now, and everything riding on this game? You see the percentages and how it will swing based on who wins this game and who can win the division. How hard is that for the team that wins the first one to come back and throw something new at the opposition and get that second one too?
Yeah, I think the advantage when you play somebody that quick, and maybe even longer, but particularly when it's this quick, I'm going to move here a little bit as I'm definitely in the sun, which is good down here.
It's a Dallas thing.
Yes.
Right? The sun in your eyes.
Yes. Yeah. For those who don't know, I got a house down here in Dallas, so do a little commuting back and forth. It's definitely an advantage to an extent to the team that lost, because they're going to go in and say, we have to make some changes. You win the game, you're going, I look pretty good, and we don't need to make a whole lot of changes. So I think there's two things to it. I think one is, we're going to see some wrinkles particularly from Arizona's offense, and we're going to have to weather that storm the first, 15 plays, but they're going to settle into what they do. But I think what I saw in that game, we're better than they are. We're better. I mean, we dominated their offensive line. They did ours to an extent, but we dominated that line. I mean, we collapsed that pocket, and we did not let Murray, for the most part, get out. I mean, he only had 2 rushes for 9 yards.
Yeah.
And just to say, we even bottled him up that he couldn't scramble for some yards was impressive. So I'm confident that the game plan won't matter that much. It's still going to come down to big plays. It's all going to come down to the players and execution. But I don't think we'll see too many different wrinkles.
Could be some wrinkles coming from our side too. McDonald, even after that last game, was kind of hesitant to answer certain questions in the post-game press conference. Said, we'll save that for 2 weeks from now. But also, all appearances are that we're going to get Uchenna Nwosu back this week. A healthy Uchenna Nwosu added to that group that's playing as well as they are. That's something the Cardinals haven't seen. What do you expect to see from him?
Well, I think it's good. I mean, particularly in the run game. I think Hall and Mafe they've really been impressive on the edge. And even though they've slowed down some of the sack numbers, you go look at what Mafe did on one of Leonard Williams' sacks last week. I mean, that was because of him. Yeah. So I just think, again, it just gives us another way to throw another package in there to be able to put pressure on them, shut the run game down. We're going to have to ease them back. The challenge for Uchenna is we're playing pretty well. So you don't just to get thrown in right back. I mean, Trey Brown found that out too. Just because you were playing as a starter, somebody else comes in and plays at a really high level, you're going to have to work your way into it. So yeah, but look, he's a leader. I mean, you can't have enough good football players on the field. And I like what we're doing with Draymond Jones a lot. He has become like we thought he would be a couple of years ago. And I think Chinna adding him and you got Draymond both on the edges there. I think that brings another dynamic to it.
All right, let's talk about your area of expertise. Let's talk about that secondary. And you've touched on a little bit of it so far. I want to start with Kobe Bryant because to me, his arc has been fascinating. The last coaching staff tried to make him a safety early in the preseason last year. We saw a little bit of that, saw some flashes that looked kind of cool, but then during the season he was banged up. I think he had the toe thing and they couldn't really settle him into a role. This year he's been a safety full time. A guy that's played corner his entire life. It's a whole different view of the game, right? It's a whole different set of instincts and reactions you have to have. And the list of corners that have tried to make the transition to safety and failed is a pretty long one. What is that transition like and how impressive has it been to see Kobe doing what he's doing?
I mean, you can't teach experience, right? I mean, you just got to get in there and get that experience. I played a little corner my rookie year because of injuries and stuff. You know, you're kind of going, I get the physical challenge behind it, but the mental challenge, I got this. But it is very different. You know, I mean, how you tighten up, you know, literally physically when you get pressure, you know, going on a deep pass, things like that. So now transition inside. The good thing is he's had a couple of years to transition to this. He played a little bit of nickel. He played a little bit of safety. I don't want to say he got benched, but he got demoted to an extent where he wasn't getting the opportunities. He's a smart guy and a playmaker. I think it was really just a matter of time. And for him, once he got his second opportunity, I think he relaxed. He said, you know, this is just football. You don't overthink it anymore. I've seen it a million times. Guy starts early. He gets pulled. You get him back in. He goes and becomes a football player he was in college and high school. Because there's so many guys you just go, why didn't they get to that next level? You know, they were so good in college and they're not now. It's usually right here. And it's usually opportunities. And I think, you know, he's always been a guy that believed in himself. And I think the coaches believed in him to an extent. So I don't think this one's necessarily physically, mentally. I think it's just he got his second opportunity, and now we're seeing the type of player we all thought he was.
We're seeing the type of player that we thought Devin Witherspoon was. Certainly, you're hearing the verbiage used a lot from Coach McDonald that you feel his presence out there, especially the last couple of games. He just seems to be a difference maker. Early in the season, not so much. He was a little quieter in his performance, and some of the analytics still looked good. His coverage grades were good, but he just wasn't making that kind of impact. Was that just a learning curve situation, you think, for him to figure out this scheme and exactly how he fits into it? Because he just seems to be on fire.
Yeah, I think part of it was McDonald, too, figuring out where do we play him. I mean, we were playing him all over. Matter of fact, even this last game, he played a deep half of 1/3 and 26 where they got a little mad at Woolen.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that play.
And so they play him all over.
Yeah.
The analogy or the phrase I use is a John Wooden phrase. You say, hey, be quick, but don't be in a hurry. I think Woolen was always quick, but he was always in a hurry. I'm a million miles a minute, you know, little energizer bunny. I think now he still has that amazing quickness and desire to get to the football, but I think he's slowed it down, right? I don't have to use this one too. You got a boxer who throws a jab, man. I don't have to flinch every time. You know, I just moves, you know, I move easy. And I feel like that's where he is now. In the run game, he would jump at things and he would get caught in the wrong position. Same thing, wide receiver would make a move. He jumped that move. I just think he's kind of let the game come to him a little bit more because he is a dynamic player. He is, you know, trajectory is, you know, through the roof here. And he's going to make more plays. I mean, he is a playmaker. And I think he makes more plays because I think Woolen's starting to become a more complete player. No question we got Julian Love. I mean, we just talked about Kobe Bryant. So there's a lot of good players I think elevates everybody.
That play that he made against Arizona 2 weeks ago, I mean, Kyler's got to be still thinking about that play. The 4th down play led to the Kobe pick 6, where he changed direction and reacted to Kyler moving outside. How many plays have you ever seen DBs make like that? I mean, that's one of one, right?
Yeah. So there's a lot on that play, which again, I'd love to do a clinic on. When I first saw it, I went, wow. It wasn't the physical wow moment, but he was, I don't want to say he was blitzing, but he was taught that, hey, this is a short yardage play. He was going to try and come down the line as hard as he could to potentially make a play on a running back. So he makes that move, but when you watch him change direction, he opens to the line of scrimmage and cross faces back the other way.
Yeah.
Most guys would have came down that line and they would have tried to open up towards Kyler Murray. If that had to happen, he never would have made that play. And I was just thinking, I go, here's a guy who is in his 2nd year. And I don't know if it was taught, it was just reactive instincts, but that's not a normal move. And that's what blew me away. I go, he had the wherewithal. Kyler's got the ball. I'm going to flip towards the line of scrimmage and down. And he thought he could probably keep up with him, which is that in himself was a miracle. So there was just so many cool things on how he got off the ball, that how he reacted to it, the way he fundamentally spun towards the line of scrimmage, and then to be able to get, his hands up and make him throw a bad pass. So yeah, just don't see that very often.
It was almost like a pick and roll in basketball, the way he kind of used that technique.
Yeah.
You mentioned Reek Woolen. You mentioned the 3rd and 26. There was that incident where Julian Love came over and got on him a little bit for how he played that play. Otherwise, he was outstanding. I mean, we saw the play on the first drive for the Jets where he kind of baited Garrett Wilson a little bit and hung back and had the recovery speed to go make a play. I think he only gave up 1 catch on 7 targets for 5 yards. I mean, he was pretty much a shutdown corner. But he's taken a lot of heat from fans on that play. What did you see there?
Well, I'm usually, this is my little buyer beware. You never know what they're being taught. But it looked like they were playing a form of a Tampa 2. They had dropped Julian Love into the middle of the field. He was playing that if anybody runs down the middle, I'm going to cover him or I'm going to look for a deep end. They had brought Witherspoon, who was playing the nickel. He bails out and he actually plays the deep half. They play both corners soft. So it looks like a cover 8 or cover 4 or a soft cover 2. I think it was a Tampa 2. It's 3rd and 26. Woolen runs in with his outside receiver. He runs all the way to kind of where Julian Love is. Actually, it might have been Jenkins there too. There's old adage again, be deep as the deepest, wide as the widest. If you got the flat, even if it's a deep flat, you cannot get outflanked. And so he goes all the way into the middle of the field. Now they dump it off. So that's 1. And then 2, the running back is running towards the sideline, and Woolen, I kind of see it wasn't like a terrible play. It's just the expectations in the secondary now is we play all the way to the whistle as fast and hard, and we fight for every inch. And the running back almost got the first down. He stepped out of bounds a little bit early, and you had, I think it was Jenkins, beat him to the ball. And, Woolen's faster now. I just think Love was saying, hey, 1, you got the flat. 2, if not, now you better hightail it and get to the ball and, knock him out of bounds a little bit sooner. So, and that's a leader. I mean, there's a lot of players on that team that tried to do that. Man, there would have been some, pushing and shoving maybe between the teammates there. But Julian Love has so much respect, and because he plays the game the right way, you better do it too.
Obviously, this defense is built differently than the Legion of Boom and the one that brought us the Super Bowl and that was so dominant for so long back then. But knowing that essentially this entire unit comes back next year, because I'm just going to assume they're going to do whatever. They're going to do the Leonard Williams thing. They're going to do whatever it takes to sign Ernest Jones long-term. I think he wants that to happen too. I think it's going to happen. And this entire group can come back intact next year. Does this group have a chance to get there and be as good potentially as that group before?
Yeah, those are always tough. I mean, look, you're talking about potentially 3 Hall of Famers on that defense. I could make a case there's probably R3 on there. If you want to throw in Earl Thomas in there. You had Cam Chancellor, who is so unique at what he did. And then, the defensive line rotating. I think the defensive line absolutely can be as good. Woolen's got to, he's got to become a complete player. He's getting there. Okay. I mean, look, he was a wide receiver like Richard Sherman. He's figuring this thing out. I go back 2 weeks ago in the run game. Man, he did some really cool things where I almost got weepy. And it was the way that he slid down the line and he just kept a hand away from the outside defensive end for us. But he was there, so if the ball bounced, and he was also in a position to fold in if it broke through the line, just little things like that. There was another play, it was last week against Arizona, and this is when I go, okay, everything's starting to click. There was a run play, and we were playing a form of a cover 2. The 2 corners are about 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, all sitting on the outside, able to fold in, fold outside. The 2 safeties were about 6-7 yards behind the linebackers. It was this perfect little shell umbrella. And I go, okay, I know those are the little things, but with that play popped, and it almost did, it turns into a 5-yard play, not a 30-plus yard play or a touchdown. So we're just getting all those little things. So there's a lot that needs to come into play to become the Legion of Boom, that kind of a defense, that dominant. But I think all the pieces are in place. And you mentioned Ernest Jones. Knight has to keep getting better. We had KJ Wright, so I'm doing some comparisons. I think the defensive line rotation absolutely plays into it. And Woolen's got to get better. Witherspoon's got to everybody's got to get a little bit better.
Do you think, just looking ahead to next year with that group, is Byron Murphy playing out of position? Do they need to bring someone in that can be more of a true nose to kind of free him up?
I don't know. I think right now we're getting such a high level from, Leo, or Leonard Williams, that he's got so many nicknames there. I think Jaron Reed's playing his role well too. He's also just a rookie. He was double teamed every snap in college, every snap. And so now he's got to learn how to win the one-on-one battles. He's not the biggest guy in the world. I think it's just, look, he's a rookie. Let's just let it play out. Let him learn. He's going to be fine. I like him playing less snaps. I'd like for him to play 40, 50% of the snaps. There'll be a point where you put him and Leonard Williams together, it's going to be a problem. Yeah. But there's very few rookies that just dominate right from the get-go. The talent's there. You can see it. And again, I don't think he's playing poorly. It's just, the numbers aren't there. And I think a lot has to do with you got some veterans that are playing out of their mind right now.
We have to talk a little bit about offense. What have you seen along that offensive line with some of those recent changes? Oluwatimi stepping in for Connor Williams after he retired. Abe Lucas coming back from injury, now 3 games under his belt. And then Sataoa Lamea getting his first shot against the Jets. Are you seeing potentially pieces there that can be built around for the future?
Yeah, I think the guard spot is still, we got to see. I thought Lamea, it was really funny because I looked at Pro Football Focus. I really don't watch Pro Football Focus. I don't care about their rankings. I like to see how many times they've thrown it to the right or left.
They did not like.
They gave him a score of 27.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I watched every play he did, and I went, I thought he actually played pretty well. I'm going to have to go back because I'm starting to question myself. I go,
right,
I can't be that far off, or they can't be that lousy at what they do. But I watched him, and I go, sometimes it doesn't look really pretty, but I thought he held up well. There's a play or two, but I would say he played as well, not better than Bradford's been playing at times. So I think Abe Lucas definitely settles things down. I mean, we're not getting beat right from the get-go. Connor Williams, that was another one. He was getting beat right from the get-go. I mean, we'd have 5 to 7 snaps a game where Gino had no chance. So I'm not seeing that now. I mean, the nice thing about Olu is Olu gets in front of people. And he's not the strongest guy at times, but he definitely gets in front of people. And I think we've gotten better play because of that. I think overall it's been good. If you go and look, and you probably know this better than I do, you go and look at what Gino was doing early in the season, how quick the ball was coming out versus where he is now.
Yeah.
It's almost a half second more he's hanging on to it, maybe even a little bit more. Well, there's two things to that. Maybe we're not getting open as quick, or we're running deeper routes, but it also means we're holding up inside. So I think it's gotten better. The frustrating part is the run game has just not taken off. That part's frustrating. I think some of it's the running back, just staying what you got. There was a couple plays in the goal line that if he followed the fullback, it would have been a touchdown. It would have been a hard touchdown, but it would have been a touchdown. So, again, I've kind of been saying this a bit. It is what it is. This is what we have. And at times it's going to look a little funky. If we don't turn it over and just play field position battle, I think our defense is playing well enough that we're going to have a shot to win every game. And we got to, every once in a while get a few easy touchdowns. And we didn't get any last week. If we allowed any easy touchdowns, I think this team, it's hard for them to go 80 yards in 12, 13 plays.
How close do you think Abe Lucas looks to you right now to what he was as a rookie pre-injury?
I think he's still got a ways to go. There's a couple things, I think trusting I'm healthy for sure. That was just getting back to playing football. You play a full year. That's a lot of experience. He basically didn't play last year, and then he didn't play the first half of this season. So it takes a while, but he has definitely solidified the right side for us. It looks way better. I think he would probably even say, I got a little ways to go, but I'm happy he's there.
So they're going down to play in a stadium that has not been good to them. Like, results wise, there were times during Pete Carroll's era where the Seahawks played well down there, but some of the weird, eerie, kind of spooky and negative things that have happened there with some injuries and some other drama, certainly the Super Bowl happening there. How much of that did you see around you as a football player when it comes to superstition? Like, does that stuff hang with guys? Do they think about stuff? Is that in their awareness as they go down to that stadium that, like, this place hasn't been kind to us? Were you a superstitious player?
To an extent. I guess the answer is yes. In other words, if things were good, I'm not changing. I'm wearing same socks, and I would have washed them, but I'm wearing how I tucked my shirt. I don't want to mess with things. Yeah. We had a moment, obviously, back in the 80s when we couldn't beat Kansas City in Kansas City. I'd never won there. We had better teams than them. We just laid an egg time after time. And we tried everything. We flew out the day before, 2 days before. We stayed downtown. We stayed out towards the air. We tried everything we could. I think today, they're so good from a psychological standpoint. I don't think, even McDonald, look at our record on the road this year.
Yeah. He's won his first 3 10 a.m. games.
So that used to be, forget about it. Just chalk that one up as a loss. Who cares who we played?
Yeah.
So they've done some good things. Arizona's a weird one because you're going to go there. The environment, we're going to have a bit of a, I don't want to say a home crowd, but we'll have a pretty good crowd there because a lot of people like to travel, and Arizona doesn't really have a fan base other than when they're completely winning. So, at the end of the day, it's just go out and play well. Arizona, Kyler Murray, he's a tough one. He's just a tough one. And defensively, they're a good defense, and they have been for a while. So they're just going to have to go play and really clean game, not give up big plays. I think we get on these guys early. I think we got a chance to move away from them because they struggle protecting versus us. And we match up so well in the secondary against them too.
I want to ask you one more thing before you go. Today it was announced that Mike Holmgren has been selected as a Hall of Fame finalist, the only head coach that will be in this year's group of finalists. Makes it over Mike Shanahan, which some people might be surprised by. Shanahan has a few more wins in the regular season, has the 2 Super Bowl wins back-to-back. You think he gets in, Holmgren?
I haven't seen the whole list. He's definitely deserving. Not only won a Super Bowl, took another one, probably should have won that one, with another team, all the other ones he had when he was an assistant coach. I know it's not, a lot of times it's about the head coach, but to me it's about your career. And it's hard to get in as an assistant coach, so probably more of them should get in. And, he had that ability to transition to the head coach. And I think what he did with Seattle, I mean, it made him relevant again. You know, he also had an offense that was cutting edge at the time. And, you know, his tree of people that, you know, went on to coach. So he's deserving. It's just hard. I mean, there's a lot of guys who aren't in that probably should be. It's just, you know, becomes a bit of a numbers game. But I hope he gets in because he's a really good guy. And I'm glad he's stuck around here in the Northwest. And you wish good things for good people.
Is Pete a Hall of Fame coach?
Yes, absolutely. And again, I know it's sometimes it's what he did in his NFL career, but man, to me, it's a body of work. You know, we should have won back-to-back Super Bowls. What we did with the Legion of Boom. I mean, you go back and look at all the great defenses, you know, over time. All those coaches are in the Hall of Fame because you created something. It was his defense. He brought it in. He and John Schneider had a vision, and they executed on that vision. And the dominance that we had for, you know, 7 or 8 years, yeah, he absolutely should go in. First time, too. I mean, is there a time that they wait for coaches to retire? Is it 5 years as well?
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but yeah, there is a grace period.
Yeah, no, Pete deserves to go. And then, you know, just what he did at USC, and, you know, I don't want to say rags to riches, but when someone gets knocked down, he gets, you know, fired at the Jets in New England. He's a good guy. They hated to do it. And then to resurrect that career at USC and ultimately take it to do that, you know, in the NFL. And there's very few coaches in history that won a national championship and a Super Bowl. You know, he's one of 2 or 3, maybe 4. Yeah, we should have 2 coaches from the Seahawks make the Hall of Fame.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot. The Seahawks end up winning this division?
I think we do. We got to figure out how to win at home. It's kind of weird. The way the schedule play out, look, obviously this game coming up is critical, and we finish against the Rams on the road. I think we're better than the Rams. I think we're better than Arizona. The ones at home against Minnesota or against Green Bay and Minnesota. Yeah. You know, we gotta find a way to get one of those. And if we do, I think we win this division. This game is critical from a tie-breaking standpoint. It's critical. We win this one. We basically were up. We're already 1 up. We'd be 2 up. We'd be 3 games up because of the tiebreaker on Arizona. So that's big. And we'd be 2 games at minimum up on San Francisco. And we get to take care of business. I believe we're a better team than the Rams, and we'll beat them at the end of the year.
Paul, it's always good for you to have you on the show. Thanks so much for taking some time today.
I appreciate it. Go Sun Devils, go Seahawks, and thanks for having me on as always.
Always. Elsewhere around the NFC West, today Christian McCaffrey officially placed on injured reserve, joining Jordan Mason there. So the 49ers injury issues continue. Isaac Guerrero, the rookie running back out of Louisville, will be the guy there now moving forward. Also, Matt Stafford dealing with a high ankle sprain for the Rams, although it sounds like he's going to try and make a go of it for them. What do you think of this week's game? Are you a little more nervous about it because we played them 2 weeks ago? Give us your predictions down in the description. Shout out your final score projection, and then we will follow up. And if any of you got it right, we'll give you a shout out on the reaction show, which may not happen until midweek next week. I am going to Glendale. I will try to react in some form or fashion after the game. It may be a little bit more low tech than my videos usually are. It may or may not be live, but I will react somehow, some way. So stay tuned for that. And the best way to make sure that you don't miss out on that is to hit that bell button so that you're always notified of future episodes. Also, if you listen on audio, if you like the show, review on Apple Podcasts or rate it on Spotify. Not quite sure why Spotify doesn't let you write reviews. A little shout out to them. But that certainly helps the show. And then just sharing it as well, and all the other ways are down in the description. Follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Seahawks Forever. Thanks again to Paul for coming on. He's always so gracious, making an appearance on the show and taking the time to do it. Shout out to BetUS again for sponsoring this program. Until next time, forever and always, go Hawks.